Commander Taemin Kim felt his coffee cup shake in his hands. The warning lights on the Aegis Prime Defense Station flashed red across every screen. Something big was coming through hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. "Sir, you need to see this," called out Lieutenant Yujin Park from her station. Her voice cracked with fear. Taemin walked over and looked at her screen. What he saw made his blood freeze. Hundreds of massive shapes were appearing in space. No, not hundreds, thousands. Each one was the size of a small moon, dark metal gleaming against the stars. "Get me Admiral Lee right now," Taemin said. His voice stayed calm, but inside he was screaming. The main screen lit up with the face of Admiral Boram Lee. She was an old woman with gray hair and scars on her cheek from the Mars Rebellion 20 years ago. Her eyes were hard as steel. "I see them too, Taemin," she said before he could speak. "How many?" "At least 3,000 ships, Admiral. Maybe more. They're still coming through." Admiral Lee was quiet for a long moment. In all her years of fighting, she had never seen anything like this. The biggest human fleet had only 200 ships. This alien force was 15 times larger. "Send out the warning to all colonies," she said finally. Code red. All military ships returned to Earth immediately. On Earth, Dr. Ha-Jun Park was working late in his lab when the emergency signal came through. He was studying alien artifacts found on dead worlds. Most species in the galaxy had been wiped out by something. Now he knew what. The communication came at exactly midnight Earth time. Every radio, every screen, every device that could receive signals suddenly showed the same thing. A massive alien face appeared. It had 4 eyes, gray skin, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. "I am Overlord Vextar of the Korthak Dominion," the creature said. Its voice was deep and cold. "You will surrender your species in 72 hours. If you do not, we will destroy every human in the galaxy." The alien's face filled the screen as it continued. "Do not think you can fight us. We have conquered 17 star systems. Our fleet has never lost a single ship. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your ships are like insects before us." President So Young-choi was in an emergency meeting when the message came through. She was a small woman, but everyone respected her strength. She had led Earth through 3 wars and never backed down from a fight. "How long until they reach Earth?" she asked Admiral Lee over the video call. "If they keep moving at current speed, maybe 6 days," the Admiral replied. "But they could go faster if they wanted to." "And our defenses?" Admiral Lee's face was grim. "We have 150 ships ready to fight. Another 50 are coming back from the outer colonies. Against 3,000 alien ships." She didn't finish the sentence. Dr. Ha-Jun Park had been listening to the call. "I've been studying their technology from the wreckage we found on Kepler 442b. Their ships use some kind of dark energy. Our weapons might not even scratch them. Captain Dong-Woo Han was on patrol near Jupiter when he got the recall order. He commanded a small scout ship called Shadow Runner. When he saw the alien fleet on his long-range sensors, he couldn't believe it. "Jae-won, are you seeing this?" he asked his co-pilot. Lieutenant Jae-won Song looked at his screen and went pale. "Captain, there are so many of them. How can we fight this?" "We can't," Dong-Woo said quietly. "But we have to try." The first attack came sooner than expected. 3 human patrol ships were guarding the outer system when Korthak scouts found them. The fight lasted less than 10 minutes. Commander Taemin watched from Aegis Prime as the alien weapons tore through human shields like they were made of paper. The human ships fired everything they had: missiles, lasers, plasma cannons. Nothing worked. The alien ships didn't even slow down. "Get me damage reports," he ordered. "Sir?" Lieutenant Yujin's voice was shaking. "The Brave Heart, Iron Will, and Freedom's Call are gone. No survivors." Taemin closed his eyes. Those were good ships with good crews. 90 people dead in the first 10 minutes of war. Admiral Lee called another emergency meeting. All the human military leaders appeared on screen. They looked scared, and they had good reason to be. "The aliens are stronger than we thought," she said. "Our weapons can't hurt them. Their weapons destroy us easily. We need a new plan." "What about the Project Lazarus research?" asked General Minho Kang from Mars Command. "Still in testing," replied Dr. Myung Kang, his daughter and lead scientist on the project. "We're trying to build quantum weapons, but they keep exploding during tests. We need more time." "Time we don't have," Admiral Lee said. President Choi leaned forward. "What are our options?" "We fight," said Admiral Lee simply. "We gather every ship, every weapon, every person willing to defend Earth. Maybe we can't win, but we can make them pay for every mile of space." Engineer Wu Jin Seo had been working on experimental reactor designs for months. His quantum cores produced incredible power, but they were too dangerous for normal use. One small mistake and the whole ship would explode. Maybe too dangerous is exactly what we need, he said to himself, looking at his designs. On the alien flagship, Overlord Vextar studied reports about human military strength. His 4 eyes showed amusement as he read the numbers. Only 200 ships? He said to his lieutenant. The Zelani Empire had 5,000 ships and we destroyed them in one day. These humans will be even easier. Should we speed up our approach, Overlord? Asked the lieutenant. No, Vextar replied. Let them suffer in fear. Let them see death coming slowly. It makes the conquest sweeter. Back on Earth, people watched the news with growing terror. The alien fleet was coming and there seemed to be no way to stop it. Some people prayed. Others packed up and tried to run to distant colonies. Most just waited. Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of her flagship, Indomitable. Through the windows, she could see hundreds of human ships forming defensive lines around Earth and its moon. Every warship humanity had ever built was there. Massive dreadnoughts, fast cruisers, small fighters. It was beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. This is it, she said to her crew. Everything we've built, everything we've fought for comes down to the next few days. We might not win, but we'll show these aliens what humans are made of. The alien fleet continued its slow advance toward Earth. In space, there was no sound, but if there could be, it would be the sound of doom approaching. 3,000 ships of incredible power, moving like a dark tide toward humanity's home. Dr. Ha-Jun Park worked through the night, studying every piece of alien technology he could find. Somewhere in the data, there had to be a weakness. There had to be something they could use. As the first day ended, the Korthak fleet was still 5 days away from Earth. But their scout ships were already probing human defenses, testing their weapons, learning their weaknesses. The war for humanity's survival had begun. The Korthak fleet moved through space like a spreading disease. Each day brought them closer to Earth, and each day brought new messages from Overlord Vextar. The alien leader seemed to enjoy talking about how other species had died. The proud Zelani thought their crystal ships were unbreakable. Vextar's voice echoed through human communication channels. They begged for mercy as we turned their worlds to ash. The warrior race of Thekmor lasted 3 hours against our might. How long will you last, humans? President So-Young Choi watched the broadcast from her office deep under the Swiss mountains. Each word from the alien overlord was meant to break human spirit. Instead, it made her angry. Turn it off, she told her aide. I've heard enough. But across human space, people couldn't stop listening. Some colonies tried to surrender early, hoping the aliens would spare them. Others prepared to fight to the last person. Fear spread faster than any disease. Captain Dongwoo Han received new orders from Admiral Lee. Take his stealth ship Shadowrunner and get as close to the alien fleet as possible. Gather intelligence on their weapons and defenses. It was basically a suicide mission. You don't have to do this, his co-pilot Jae-won Song said as they prepared to leave. Yes, I do, Dongwoo replied. If we're going to die, we need to know what killed us. Maybe it will help others. The Shadowrunner was humanity's most advanced scout ship. It could hide from most sensors and move without being seen. But the Korthak technology was unlike anything humans had faced before. For 2 days, Dongwoo carefully approached the alien fleet. The ships were even more massive up close. Each one had weapons that could destroy a city with one shot. Their hulls were made of some dark metal that seemed to absorb light. I'm reading incredible energy signatures, Jae-won reported quietly. Their power cores are generating more energy than our entire fleet combined. Dongwoo recorded everything. The way the ships moved, the patterns of their formations, the frequency of their communications. Every detail might be important. On the research station Prometheus, Dr. Mi-young Kang was having another bad day. Her quantum torpedo prototype had just exploded during testing, destroying half of Lab 7. That was the 15th failure this month. The energy is too unstable, she told her team. Every time we try to focus it into a weapon, it tears itself apart. Dr. Siwoo Lee, her assistant, looked at the wreckage. Maybe we're thinking about this wrong. Instead of trying to control the energy, what if we just pointed it in the right direction and let it loose? That's insane, Mi-young said. The ship firing such a weapon would probably be destroyed too. Maybe that's a price we have to pay. Meanwhile, Engineer Wu Jin Seo was working in his private lab on modifications to quantum reactor technology. His designs could produce enormous amounts of power, but they were incredibly dangerous. One small mistake would turn any ship into a nuclear bomb. The safety protocols say this is impossible, he muttered to himself. Good thing I never liked following protocols. His quantum core design used controlled matter-antimatter reactions to tear holes in space itself. The power output was beyond anything humans had ever built. It was also beyond anything humans could safely control. Admiral Lee was coordinating humanity's defense from her flagship. Every day brought more ships returning from distant colonies. Miners, traders, patrol vessels, research ships. Everything that could mount a weapon was being pressed into service. How many ships do we have now? She asked her staff officer. 203 combat vessels, Admiral, plus about 50 civilian ships that we've armed with whatever we could find. Against 3,000 alien ships. Admiral Lee shook her head. We're going to need a miracle. The miracle might come from an unexpected source. Captain Nari Lim commanded an experimental vessel called Defiance. It was built to test new technologies that were too dangerous for normal ships. Admiral Lee wants to see you, her communications officer reported. The meeting was held in secret. Admiral Lee, Dr. Mi-young Kang, and Engineer Wu Jin Seo all appeared on screen. We have an idea, Admiral Lee said. It's crazy and dangerous, but it might be our only chance. The plan was simple in concept, terrifying in execution. Take Wu Jin's experimental quantum reactor and combine it with Mi-young's unstable quantum weapons. Mount both systems on Nari's Defiance and see if they could punch through alien defenses. The power requirements are enormous, Wu Jin explained. And the weapon system is completely untested. The ship might survive one shot, maybe. And if it doesn't work? Nari asked. Then we die trying, Admiral Lee said simply. Back on the alien flagship, Overlord Vextar was studying human military movements. His intelligence officers reported that the humans were gathering all their ships around Earth. They planned to make a final stand, one officer reported. Standard defensive formation around their homeworld. Vextar's 4 eyes showed amusement. How predictable. Every species does the same thing. They gather their forces, make inspiring speeches, and then die heroically. It never works. Should we change our approach, Overlord? No, let them prepare their defenses. It will make their defeat more complete when we crush them easily. The Korthak had conquered 17 star systems using the same tactics. Overwhelmed the enemy with superior numbers and firepower. Break their spirit with demonstrations of power. Accept surrender or destroy everything. It had never failed. Dr. Hajun Park was working around the clock studying captured alien technology. The few pieces of wreckage from their scout ships showed incredible sophistication. Their weapons used focused dark energy. Their shields bent space itself to deflect attacks. It's like they're using the universe itself as a weapon, he told his research team. How do you fight something like that? His assistant, Dr. Kyung-ho Kim, had been studying psychological profiles of other conquered species. Maybe we don't fight their technology directly. Maybe we fight them. What do you mean? Every species they've conquered was similar to them. Hierarchical societies with predictable military structures. But humans are different. We're chaotic, unpredictable. Maybe that's an advantage. Captain Dongwu's reconnaissance mission was providing valuable intelligence. The alien formations never changed. Their ships moved in perfect coordination. Their communication patterns were rigid and formal. They're like a machine, he reported to Admiral Lee. Everything is planned. Everything is coordinated. There's no room for individual initiative. That might be something we can use, the Admiral replied. The modifications to the Defiance took 3 days of non-stop work. Engineers worked in radiation suits as they installed Wu Jin's quantum reactor. The power core was so dangerous that just being near it for too long could kill someone. Dr. Mi-young's weapon system was even more unstable. The quantum torpedo launchers had to be completely rebuilt to handle the energy output. Warning systems covered every surface of the ship. One wrong move and we become a very bright star, Nari said as she toured her modified ship. Just make sure you point it at the aliens first, Wu Jin replied with a nervous laugh. The first test firing was scheduled for day 4 of the invasion countdown. The Defiance moved to a safe distance from Earth and prepared to fire at an old asteroid. All systems ready, reported Lieutenant Hyun-ju Park from the weapons station. Fire, Nari ordered. The ship screamed as energy tore through its systems. Warning lights flashed everywhere. The quantum torpedo launched and struck the asteroid with the force of a small nuclear weapon. But more importantly, it punched straight through a Korthak shield simulator. It worked, Mi-young whispered over the communication channel. The weapon actually worked, but the victory came with a cost. The Defiance was badly damaged from firing the weapon. Half its systems were offline, and radiation leaked from the reactor core. How many more shots can we take? Nari asked her engineer. Maybe 2 or 3 before the ship tears itself apart, came the reply. It wasn't much, but it was more than humans had before. For the first time since the aliens arrived, there was hope. Overlord Vextar received reports of human weapons testing. His science officers dismissed it as desperate experimentation. They are trying to adapt their primitive technology, one reported. It will not matter. Our shields have never been breached by any species. Good, Vextar replied. Let them waste their energy on useless weapons. It will make their final surrender even more satisfying. The alien fleet continued its advance toward Earth. 2 days remained before they would arrive. Across human space, people prepared for the end of everything they had ever known. But on secret channels, human engineers and scientists shared new discoveries. The aliens weren't as invincible as they claimed. There were ways to hurt them. All humanity needed was the courage to try. The Korthak fleet reached the outer edge of the solar system on schedule. Their massive ships moved past Neptune like dark angels of death. Nothing had ever stopped them before, and they saw no reason why humans would be different. Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of her flagship Indomitable, watching the enemy approach. Around her, the greatest fleet humanity had ever assembled waited in defensive positions. 250 ships of all sizes, from massive dreadnoughts to small fighters. It looked impressive until you remembered they faced 3,000 alien vessels. Operation Cerberus is a go, she announced to all ships. Remember, we're not trying to win this fight. We're trying to learn how to win the next one. Commodore Jinho Yu commanded the forward task force near Neptune. His job was to slow down the alien advance and gather as much combat data as possible. He knew it was a suicide mission, but someone had to go first. All ships, this is Commodore Yu. We fight with honor. We die with purpose. Make every shot count. The first battle of the war began at 800 Earth Standard Time. Yu's 20 ships opened fire on the leading edge of the Korthak fleet. Missiles and energy beams reached out across space toward the alien vessels. The human weapons struck Korthak shields and simply disappeared. It was like shooting at ghosts. The alien ships didn't even slow down. Then the Korthak returned fire. The alien weapons were beyond anything humans had imagined. Beams of dark energy that tore through space itself. The human ship Courageous was hit first. Its shields collapsed instantly. Its armor melted like ice in summer. The ship broke apart in seconds. Courageous is gone, reported Captain Sujin Han from the Defiant. No debris. It's like the ship was erased. One by one, Yu's ships died. They fought bravely, firing everything they had at the advancing aliens. But brave doesn't stop superior technology. Within 30 minutes, 19 human ships were destroyed. Only Yu's flagship Determination survived, and barely. His ship limped away from the battle zone, its hull cracked and systems failing. Admiral Lee, Yu's voice was weak over the communication channel. The aliens, they're not even trying hard. They're playing with us. But the battle had achieved something important. For the first time, the Korthak had been forced to use their full weapon systems. Dr. Ha-Jun Park and his analysis team studied every second of combat data. Look at this, he told his assistant Dr. Kyung-Ho Kim. When they fire at maximum power, their energy signatures fluctuate. Just for a microsecond, but it's there. What does that mean? I'm not sure yet. But it's the first weakness we've found. Meanwhile, engineer Woojin Seo was making desperate modifications to his quantum reactor design. The test firing of the Defiance had shown the weapon worked, but barely. The ship had nearly torn itself apart from the energy discharge. We need to find a way to channel more power without destroying ourselves, he muttered, working through his 15th design revision. His new reactor used multiple quantum cores linked together. It was incredibly dangerous. If one core failed, the chain reaction would destroy everything within 1,000 kilometers, but it might produce enough power to actually hurt the aliens. Captain Nari Lim watched the modifications to her ship with growing concern. The Defiance now looked more like a flying bomb than a warship. Quantum cores filled most of the hull. Warning signs covered every surface. How many shots will this give us? She asked Woojin. Honestly, I have no idea. Maybe one really big shot before we all become cosmic dust. Good enough. Dr. Mi-Young Kang had been working on a new type of quantum weapon based on the combat data from Neptune. Instead of trying to punch through alien shields directly, her new torpedoes would phase through normal space and explode inside the enemy ships. It's theoretical, she admitted to Admiral Lee. We've never tested anything like this. How theoretical? Well, it might work. Or it might tear a hole in reality and destroy the solar system. Admiral Lee was quiet for a long moment. At this point, destroying the solar system ourselves might be better than letting the aliens do it. Keep working. The Korthak fleet continued its advance toward Earth. Their formation never changed. Perfect order, perfect coordination. Every ship knew exactly where it was supposed to be and what it was supposed to do. Overlord Vexitar reviewed reports from the first battle with satisfaction. 19 human ships destroyed, 0 Korthak losses. Just as predicted. The humans fought bravely, observed his lieutenant. More bravely than most species. Bravery without power is meaningless, Vexitar replied. The Thekmor warriors were brave too. They still died. But something was different about this conquest. The Korthak monitoring stations were picking up unusual energy readings from human space. Ships were being modified in ways that made no sense. Reactor signatures were off the charts. They're doing something dangerous, reported the science officer. These energy readings suggest they're willing to destroy their own ships. Desperation, Vexitar said dismissively. When a species knows it's about to die, they often do stupid things. Lieutenant Colonel Hyun-Woo Nam was leading a desperate mission to capture damaged alien technology. His Special Forces team had been studying wreckage from Korthak scout ships for weeks. We need intact systems, he told his squad. Weapons, shields, anything that can tell us how their technology works. The mission was launched during the second day of fighting. While the main fleets engaged near Jupiter, Nam's stealth ship Ghostwalker approached a damaged Korthak scout vessel that had been left behind. The alien ship was still partially functional. Its crew was alive but injured. Nam's team had to fight their way inside using experimental weapons designed specifically for close combat with Korthak soldiers. The aliens were bigger and stronger than humans, but they fought like machines. No creativity, no adaptation. They followed programmed responses even when those responses clearly weren't working. They're like robots, reported Sergeant Haewon Lee after the fighting ended. Smart robots, but still robots. The captured technology was rushed back to Dr. Ha-Jun Park's research station. For the first time, humans had intact Korthak systems to study. This is incredible, Park said as he examined an alien weapon. The technology is amazing, but the design philosophy is completely rigid. Everything is built to work one specific way. Can we use it against them? Maybe. But not the way you'd think. Admiral Lee was beginning to see a pattern in Korthak behavior. Their tactics never changed. Their formations were always the same. Even their communication patterns followed rigid protocols. They're predictable, she told her staff. Incredibly advanced but predictable. They do everything the same way because it's always worked before. How does that help us? Asked Captain So-Young Park. I'm not sure yet. But humans are anything except predictable. The battle for Jupiter's moons began on the third day. This time Admiral Lee tried something different. Instead of meeting the Korthak in traditional formation, human ships attacked in seemingly random patterns. Small groups of fighters would dart in, fire everything they had, then retreat. Larger ships would appear from unexpected directions, launch attacks, then disappear behind moons or asteroid fields. The Korthak formation began to show stress. Ships that were used to operating in perfect coordination found themselves dealing with attacks from multiple directions. Their response time slowed as commanders tried to process unexpected tactical situations. It's working, reported Captain Dong-Woo Han from his scout position. They're having trouble adapting to our chaos. But chaos alone wasn't enough. Human ships were still being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. For every alien ship damaged, 5 human vessels were lost. Specialist Yoon-Ji Choi was working on something that might change the balance. A computer expert, she had been studying captured Korthak communication equipment. Their signals were incredibly sophisticated but followed rigid patterns. I think I can hack into their network, she told Admiral Lee. If I can break their communication protocols, we might be able to listen to their orders. Do it. The hack took 18 hours of continuous work. Yunji had to learn an entirely alien programming language and break encryption that was thousands of years more advanced than human technology. But humans had one advantage. They thought differently than any species the Korthak had encountered. Where aliens used logic and order, humans used intuition and chaos. "I'm in," Yunji announced triumphantly. "I can hear everything they're saying." The intelligence was shocking. The Korthak weren't just confident about winning. They were bored. This invasion was routine for them. They expected total victory within hours of reaching Earth. But there was something else in their communications. Something that made Admiral Lee smile for the first time in days. "They're starting to ask questions," she told her staff. "For the first time in their history, they're encountering tactics they don't understand. They're beginning to doubt their predictions." Doubt was something the Korthak had never experienced. Every species they'd conquered had fought in predictable ways. But humans kept doing things that didn't make sense, sacrificing valuable ships for no apparent gain, attacking from impossible directions, using their own vessels as weapons. The alien commanders were starting to worry. Not about losing. That was still impossible, but about how long this conquest was taking. It should have been over by now. The modified Defiance. The destruction of the Korthak heavy cruiser sent shockwaves through both fleets. For humans, it was proof that the aliens could be hurt. For the Korthak, it was something impossible that had somehow become real. Admiral Lee seized the moment. "All ships, this is Admiral Lee. We can hurt them. We can beat them. Show these aliens what humanity is made of." The battle around Jupiter became something the galaxy had never seen before. Human ships began fighting in ways that defied military logic. Captains would ram their vessels into alien ships after their weapons failed. Engineers would overload their reactors to create makeshift bombs. Pilots would sacrifice themselves to create openings for other ships. Captain Nari Lim's Defiance managed to fire 2 more quantum torpedoes before its systems finally collapsed. Each shot destroyed a Korthak vessel, but the effort cost everything. The ship was coming apart at the molecular level. "All crew to escape pods," Nari ordered. "It's been an honor serving with you." But her weapons officer, Lieutenant Hyeon-Ju Park, had a different idea. "Captain, we have one more trick to play. If we overload all quantum cores at once, the explosion would destroy everything within 1,000 kilometers, Nari finished. "Including us." "Including a dozen alien ships." Nari looked around her bridge. Every crew member nodded. They all understood. This was their chance to really hurt the enemy. Do it. The Defiance flew straight into the heart of a Korthak formation. When the quantum cores overloaded, the explosion was visible from Earth. 12 alien ships were caught in the blast. None survived. Overlord Vextar watched his ships die with growing horror. This wasn't how war was supposed to work. The humans were using tactics that no sane species would attempt. They were turning their own ships into weapons. "Sir," his lieutenant reported nervously, "we're losing ships faster than predicted. The humans they're not fighting like any species we've encountered." "How many have we lost?" 47 ships destroyed, sir. With more damaged, 47 ships. In his entire military career, Vextar had never lost more than 5 ships in any single campaign. The humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to surrender after the first demonstration of Korthak power. Lieutenant Colonel Hyunwoo Nam was leading another boarding mission, this time against a damaged Korthak destroyer. His special forces had developed new tactics specifically for fighting in alien ship corridors. "Remember," he told his squad, "they expect us to fight like soldiers, so we fight like humans instead." The Korthak crew resisted fiercely, but they were confused by human tactics. Where they expected formal military procedure, humans used improvisation and creativity. Human soldiers would hide in places that made no tactical sense, attack from impossible angles, and use the ship's own systems against its crew. "These humans are insane," one Korthak officer reported to his commander. "They don't follow any logical combat doctrine." "That's exactly why we're winning," Nam replied as his team captured the ship's bridge. Dr. Ha-Jun Park was analyzing data from every battle, looking for patterns in Korthak behavior. What he found was disturbing and hopeful at the same time. "They're starting to make mistakes," he told Admiral Lee. "Their tactical responses are becoming slower. They're second-guessing their own protocols." "What does that mean?" "I think we're breaking their confidence. Every species they've conquered before fought in predictable ways. But we're chaos incarnate. They don't know how to respond to pure human craziness. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Specialist Yunji Choi had been monitoring Korthak communications for days. She was starting to understand how their command structure worked. "Admiral, you need to hear this," she said urgently. "The aliens are arguing with each other. Their commanders are disagreeing about tactics for the first time." The intercepted communications revealed something incredible. Korthak society was built on absolute order and hierarchy. Every decision came from the top. Every action followed predetermined protocols. But humans had introduced something into their perfect system: doubt. "Their officers are questioning orders," Yunji continued. "Some ships are taking longer to respond to commands. Their formation integrity is breaking down." Admiral Lee realized what was happening. "We're not just fighting their ships. We're fighting their entire way of thinking." The Korthak fleet had always operated as a single organism. Every ship knew its role. Every crew followed orders without question. But humans had introduced chaos into their system. Now Korthak commanders were facing situations their training had never prepared them for. Engineer Wu Jin Seo had been working around the clock to produce more quantum weapons. His new design was even more dangerous than the Defiance had been. The ships mounting these weapons probably wouldn't survive firing them. "We need volunteers," Admiral Lee announced to the fleet. "Ships willing to mount experimental weapons that will almost certainly destroy them." Every single captain volunteered. Captain Byung-ho Kim was selected to command the first new quantum ship, the Prometheus. Unlike the Defiance, this vessel was designed from the ground up to be a weapon. It had minimal crew space, maximum firepower, and a life expectancy measured in minutes. "Sir," his navigator reported, "the quantum cores are stable, but barely. One good hit and we'll go up like a star. Then we better make our shot count." The Prometheus and 5 other quantum ships launched a coordinated attack on the Korthak command formation. They moved faster than anything the aliens had seen, powered by reactors that should have been impossible to control. The quantum torpedoes tore through Korthak shields like they weren't there. Each shot destroyed or crippled an alien vessel. But the human ships paid the price. One by one, they overloaded and exploded. Only the Prometheus survived its attack run, and barely. Half its systems were dead, and radiation was leaking from the quantum cores. But it had accomplished something incredible. It had destroyed the Korthak fleet's primary command ship. "This is impossible," Vextar said as he watched his command structure fall apart. "How are these primitives doing this?" His science officer had been studying human tactics for hours. "Sir, I believe the humans are using their greatest weakness as a weapon." "Explain." "They have no central command structure. Each ship acts independently. Each crew makes its own decisions. What we see as chaos, they see as flexibility." For the first time in his long military career, Vextar didn't know what to do. His ships were still superior in technology and numbers, but the humans were fighting a type of war he didn't understand. Dr. Mi Young Kang had been working on a new weapon based on quantum entanglement principles. Instead of trying to destroy Korthak ships directly, her new approach would disrupt their communication networks. "If we can break their coordination," she explained to Admiral Lee, "their superior numbers become a disadvantage." "How?" "Think about it. 3,000 ships trying to coordinate without proper communication. They'll start getting in each other's way." The quantum communication disruptor was mounted on a heavily modified research vessel. Its job was to get close enough to the Korthak fleet to deploy the weapon. It was another suicide mission, but that was becoming normal for human forces. The attack came during the battle for Mars orbit. While human ships engaged the aliens directly, the research vessel Einstein slipped through the combat zone toward the enemy fleet's communication hub. The quantum disruptor activated at point-blank range. Invisible energy waves spread through the Korthak formation, interfering with their communication protocols. For the first time in their history, Korthak ships lost contact with Central Command. The effect was immediate and devastating. Ships that had operated in perfect coordination for thousands of years suddenly found themselves acting alone. Formations broke apart. Orders weren't received. Friendly fire incidents began occurring as ships lost track of their allies' positions. "Sir," the Korthak fleet coordinator reported to Vexitar, "we're losing communication with 60% of our ships. Our formation is collapsing." Vextar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His perfect fleet was falling apart because humans had done something no other species had ever tried. They had attacked the one thing he thought was impossible to destroy, Korthak unity. But the humans weren't done. Admiral Lee had one more surprise prepared. She had been studying Korthak psychology through Dr. Park's research. What she learned gave her an idea that was either brilliant or completely insane. "Patch me through to the Korthak fleet," she ordered. "Ma'am," her communications officer looked confused. "You heard me. I want to talk to their commander." The transmission went out on all frequencies. When Overlord Vextar's face appeared on screen, Admiral Lee smiled. "Overlord Vextar," she said calmly. "I am Admiral Boram Lee of the Earth Defense Fleet. I have a proposition for you." "Humans do not negotiate from positions of weakness," Vextar replied, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "Who says we're weak?" Lee asked. "You've lost over 100 ships to a force 1/10 your size. Your communications are disrupted. Your formations are broken. You came here expecting easy prey. Instead, you found predators." Vextar was silent for a long moment. Everything the human admiral said was true. "What do you propose?" he finally asked. "Single combat. Your best ship against ours. Winner takes all." It was a proposal that made no military sense. The humans were still. The construction of the indomitable spirit took every resource humanity could gather. Engineers worked without sleep. Scientists pushed the boundaries of known physics. Volunteers lined up knowing they might not survive just being near the ship when it launched. Dr. Mi Young Kang stood in the massive construction bay, watching the final components being installed. The ship looked nothing like any vessel ever built. Instead of sleek lines, it was covered in quantum field generators. Instead of normal weapons, it carried something that could barely be called a weapon at all. "Are you sure this will work?" asked Engineer Wu Jinseo as he made final adjustments to the quantum core array. "Honestly? No," Mi Young replied. "But it's the only chance we have. The ship's main weapon wasn't designed to destroy the enemy. It was designed to do something far more dangerous. Introduce chaos into order." Dr. Ha-Jun Park had spent weeks studying captured Korthak technology and psychology. What he discovered changed everything humans thought they knew about their enemy. "They're not really individuals," he explained to Admiral Lee. "They're more like cells in a giant organism. Each Korthak thinks and acts as part of the collective. That's their strength, but it's also their greatest weakness." "What do you mean?" "Individual consciousness is completely foreign to them. The idea that someone could think independently, make their own decisions, act against the group. It's like trying to explain color to someone who was born blind." The plan that emerged from this discovery was audacious beyond belief. Instead of trying to destroy the Korthak physically, humanity would attack them mentally. They would force individual consciousness into minds that had never experienced it. Captain Byung-ho Kim volunteered to command the indomitable spirit. He knew it was a death sentence, but he also knew it might be humanity's last hope. "The quantum consciousness transmitter is untested," Dr. Park warned him. "We don't know what it will do to human minds, let alone alien ones. Will it stop them? It might. Or it might drive them all insane. Or it might tear holes in reality itself." "Sounds like a typical human plan," Kim said with a grim smile. Overlord Vextar was preparing his own championship for the single combat challenge. The Eternal Dominance was the most powerful vessel in the Korthak fleet. It carried weapons that could shatter planets and shields that had never been breached. But Vextar was troubled. His fleet was still suffering from the communication disruption. Ships that had operated in perfect harmony for thousands of years were now making independent decisions. Some were even questioning orders. "Sir," his lieutenant reported, "the ship Unyielding Order is requesting permission to withdraw from the battle line." "Requesting?" Vextar's four eyes widened in shock. "Since when do Korthak ships request anything?" "They follow orders. That's just it, sir. They say the orders don't make tactical sense given current conditions." This was unprecedented. In the entire history of the Korthak Dominion, no ship had ever questioned orders. The very concept was alien to their nature. "Something is wrong," Vextar said quietly. "These humans are doing something to us." The single combat was scheduled to take place in the space between Earth and Mars. Both fleets would watch as their champions fought. The winner would claim total victory. As the indomitable spirit approached the combat zone, its crew made final preparations. The ship was barely holding together. The quantum cores were operating at 150% of their theoretical maximum. Warning alarms had been turned off because they never stopped ringing. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Jae-hyun Song, The consciousness transmitter is ready, but I have to warn you, once we activate it, there's no going back. For humanity, there never has been, Kim replied. The Eternal Dominance moved into position opposite the human ship. It was 5 times larger, with weapons that could vaporize the indomitable spirit with a single shot. By every measure that mattered, this should be an easy victory for the Korthak. But humans had long ago stopped caring about what should happen. "This is Overlord Vexitar," came the transmission from the alien ship. "Prepare to witness the end of your species." "This is Captain Byung-ho Kim," came the reply. "Prepare to learn what it means to be human." The battle began with the Eternal Dominance firing its primary weapons. Beams of dark energy that could crack moons reached out toward the human ship. But instead of trying to avoid them, the indomitable spirit flew directly into the attack. The human ship's shields collapsed instantly. Its armor began to melt, but it kept coming, driven by something the Korthak couldn't understand: the human refusal to surrender. "Impossible," Vextar muttered. "They should be dead." The indomitable spirit was dying, but it wasn't dead yet. As it closed the distance to the alien ship, Captain Kim gave the order that would change the galaxy forever. "Activate the consciousness transmitter." The weapon that fired wasn't made of energy or matter. It was made of pure thought. Human consciousness, in all its chaotic, individual, unpredictable glory, reached out across space and touched the Korthak collective mind. The effect was immediate and devastating. Every Korthak on every ship suddenly experienced something they had never felt before: individual awareness. For the first time in their species' history, they realized they were separate beings capable of independent thought. The sensation was overwhelming. Korthak minds that had never known doubt suddenly questioned everything. Soldiers who had never disobeyed orders wondered why they should follow them. Commanders who had never thought for themselves tried to understand what self even meant. On the Eternal Dominance, Vextar felt his world collapse. The constant presence of the collective consciousness that had guided him his entire life was gone. He was alone in his own mind for the first time ever. What is happening to me?" he whispered. Across the Korthak fleet, the same scene played out on thousands of ships. Crews that had operated in perfect unity for millennia suddenly found themselves questioning orders, making independent decisions, and experiencing fear. Some ships began retreating without orders. Others opened fire on their own allies, their crews panicked and confused. Many simply stopped functioning as their crews struggled to cope with individual consciousness. The indomitable spirit had sacrificed itself to deliver the weapon, breaking apart from the strain of its impossible mission. But Captain Kim's sacrifice had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history: the introduction of free will to a species that had never known it existed. Admiral Lee watched from her flagship as the Korthak fleet dissolved into chaos. Ships that had moved in perfect formation were now scattered across space, their crews struggling with concepts like choice, doubt, and fear. "Sir," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from multiple Korthak vessels." "Surrender requests?" "Yes, ma'am. Individual ships asking for mercy. Some are saying they don't want to fight anymore. Others are asking for asylum." It was impossible, but it was happening. The species that had conquered 17 star systems was falling apart because they had been given the most dangerous gift in the universe: the ability to think for themselves. On his crippled flagship, Overlord Vextar struggled with emotions he had never experienced. Fear, doubt, loneliness. The collective consciousness that had defined his species was gone, replaced by something terrifying and wonderful: individual identity. "My lord," his lieutenant said hesitantly, "what are your orders?" For the first time in his life, Vextar didn't know. Without the collective to guide him, he had to make his own decisions. The concept was both frightening and exhilarating. He began, then stopped. "I don't know. What do you think we should do?" The lieutenant stared at him in shock. Never before had a Korthak officer asked for another's opinion. Never before had they admitted uncertainty. "I think," the lieutenant said slowly, "that maybe we should surrender. These humans, they didn't defeat us with weapons. They gave us something we never knew we wanted: ourselves." Dr. Ha-Jun Park was monitoring the aftermath from his research station. The psychological data coming from the Korthak ships was incredible. An entire species was experiencing individual consciousness for the first time. "It's working," he reported to Admiral Lee. Their collective identity is completely broken. They're becoming individuals. Is it permanent? We don't know. But right now they're more interested in discovering who they are than in conquering anyone. Some Korthak crews were requesting permission to land on human worlds. They wanted to learn about individual consciousness, about making personal choices, about being truly alive instead of just existing as part of a collective. Others were trying to restore their old collective identity, but they were finding it impossible. Once a mind has experienced individual thought, it can never completely return to the collective. The war was over, but not in the way anyone had expected. The Korthak Dominion, the most powerful force in the galaxy, had been defeated not by superior firepower but by an idea, the radical concept that every being has the right to think for themselves. Admiral Lee stood on her bridge, watching as Korthak ships requested permission to join human space as refugees. Former conquerors were asking to become students wanting to learn how to be individuals. "Sir," her communications officer said, "Overlord Vextar is requesting a personal meeting. He wants to discuss some philosophy." "Philosophy?" "He says he wants to understand